Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Wattsburg Area School District, where we are student-centered and future-focused for a world-class education. The March 21st, 2022 regular board meeting is now called to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we please have a roll call, Madam Secretary?
Here. 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 Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here. Present. Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda and the addendum.
So moved, Amanda.
Second, Butchak.
Any discussion or revisions to tonight's agenda and addendum? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The agenda and the addendum are approved. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the February 21st regular board meeting and the March 14th, 2022 work session.
So moved, Morvay.
Second, Burlingame.
Any discussion or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries. Minutes are approved. Chair recognizes Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Ken Berlin, for school reports.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll call upon Mr. Miller to introduce our school report tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have Abby Napierski with us. She was involved with a project called United for Ukraine, as you can see on PowerPoint. And she did it as part of Mr. O'Donnell's current affairs class. So she's here to talk to you a little bit tonight about how that went, what she did.
Hi guys, I'm Abby. I'm in 12th grade at Seneca High School, and we basically worked on a project called United for Ukraine, and I worked with Aiden and Zach that are a grade below me. So, how this project developed. In Mr. O'Donnell's current affairs honors class, we were given a project to make changes in the school. We were able to pick our partners and figure out what we wanted to help or change, whether it was supporting an already existing foundation or cause, or even creating an incentive to do your own. I started off with a different project than the donation drive, but Aiden Heron came, presented an idea he was not sure how to move forward with. He wanted to help the refugees of Ukraine. Luckily, Mr. O'Donnell had a contact with an English teacher in Poland named Carolina Dutsey. Carolina was already working on sending items they needed to Ukraine, and she said she would be thrilled if we sent things over as well. She told us the materials that we needed, and we just started collecting right away because this was something that needed to be done in a timely manner. So we started sharing our movement. We passed the idea by Mr. Miller, and he was fully behind our movement. There was then a mass email sent out to the teachers explaining our incentive and what our plan was, also notifying the teachers that I would be coming by to speak for 2 minutes every homeroom, and that I would be by to also collect any materials they were not able to put in the donation bins in the morning. Our donation drive was held from March 2nd to the 9th. We accepted donations every day in the morning, stationed outside the Commons at a table with the donation bins. Miss Wright also made an Amazon wish list linked in the email. We had our mutual friends share the link all over social media, which got tons of attention, thankfully. In the email, there was also a link to the video of Carolina that she sent to homeroom teachers to play for their students, hopefully to inspire them to donate as well. And the next one. Thank you. So, good publicity for the district. We did get interviewed by the news. They reached out and they wanted to do a story on our donation drive and the students involved. This media coverage also helped voice our cause. And we were so fortunate that they reached out to cover our story and shine a light on the students at Seneca High School. Next one. Shipping our donations. For our shipping, we sent boxes in groups at a time through the U.S. Postal Office. We raised money for shipping by advertising in homerooms and outside of school donations with just family and friends donating and writing checks out and things like that. People ended up being very generous and donating hundreds of dollars at a time. Our lightest boxes that were filled with medical supplies ranged between $98 to $150 to send internationally to Poland. So shipping got expensive pretty much very quickly. I reached out to multiple businesses, banks, and representatives to see if they would be willing to donate to this cause. We also found a posting that said Robert E. Mirsky was holding a donation collection as well, and that it had its plans to make its way to Poland. So we've set all of our heavy items there, and also the local churches were taking donations as well, which we saw via the news. So we took our heaviest items there as well, including wipes, crayons, and diapers and soaps. With the help of Miss Kelly, Miss Gummersall, and Mr. O'Donnell filling up their cars, which we're very appreciative of them doing that for us. Our group is very appreciative of these teachers taking the time out of their days to contribute to our cause. And then the things that we learned. I am sure each one of my group members would say that we did not know this donation drive would be such a success, and we would have never guessed that the whole classroom would be filled up with tons of donations as fast as it did. We learned how generous people really are and how the Seneca community came together to help the refugees of Ukraine. My members learned social skills and how to talk to businesses in proper ways. We learned how good it feels to help people, but also how difficult and how much work it is. We all did something out of our comfort zones, and I'm so proud of them. I went to the bank constantly, and I learned how to cash out a check. We learned the process of international shipping quite a few times, as you can see, when we went there. And I got to practice my public speaking, advertising, fundraising, and most importantly, teamwork. We appreciated every contribution, whether it was a donation or just time out of someone's day or free time. And I'm so thankful to be able to work on such a great project with great people. That's it.
Thank you very much, and thanks to Mr. O'Donnell for shepherding some of our great students. It's nice to see that we have students that think so much about others and are so willing to give. That's really a wonderful quality. So thank you, and we appreciate that.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it. That's all for school reports?
That's all for school reports.
Next item on the agenda is guests and citizens' comments. We don't have anybody who's signed up to speak today, so we'll move right along. Chair recognizes Mr. Ken Berlin, Superintendent of Schools, for a superintendent's report. Mr. Berlin.
Thanks, Mr. President. I've given this report various times over the years during my tenure. It keeps getting bigger as we do more things together. And I'll tell you up front, I think I've broken every rule of PowerPoint here. I have way too many bullets on each page. So I won't read those to you, but I'll just pick out a few highlights. And it's good to do this around budget time because that's when we have to decide how we're going to balance the budget, all that goes into that. So when I started here, I gave my first State of the District address, and there were some good things. We had good kids, good students, good faculty, but we had a lot of issues that needed to be addressed. And a lot of it was this recurring budget deficit of nearly $1 million. And the district had kind of worked itself into that situation by not consistently raising taxes and making other bad decisions, such as borrowing money to buy buses and that kind of thing. So the fund balance was at $350,000. That was our rainy day fund, which, when you look at a $27 million budget, that's not much. Things can go sideways pretty quick. So the first thing we tackled were the roofs, because if you don't have good roofs, the buildings will collapse. And then we started into a bunch of these energy savings projects. The sewer plant needed addressed because the filtration tanks we had two of them. They failed. We replaced them with one more modern composite filter tank. And of course, we all know we had the lovely brown water. The middle school air conditioning system was in failure mode. And of course, the parking lot had been just completely disintegrated. Like all the preventative maintenance money for those types of things, it wasn't there. And of course, the athletic center needed updating. So in 2013, we had a lot of old technology. I had walked through the middle school, and I noticed that we were still using computers from 2006, which I, in fact, came to the board when I was the middle school president and asked them to buy, because computers in school buildings were still relatively new, and having a lot of them in a building that students could use was just coming into play at that time. We didn't have a curriculum. Our math scores at the middle school were at the bottom of Erie County. And of course, along with no curriculum, we had outdated books from the 80s. We didn't have a standard math program reading. And so these are all things that we had to address. Now, if we come into modern times here, we've worked on the budget, worked on contracts and moderate raises for employees and health insurance premiums. We've tried to contain those so that we could deal with the annual inflation with a reasonable tax raise. One thing to note, and there's a lot of things on this slide, but we didn't raise taxes during that pandemic year, right? Which was the right thing to do. But as you'll see, and I think Vicky's probably told you, we usually have about a $400,000 or $500,000 increase in expenses every year just due to salary increases, health insurance premiums, pension payments. These are all things we can't control. So how did we not raise taxes and balance the budget that year? Well, what we did is we offloaded all the preventative maintenance tasks to fund balance. That's where we came up with $500,000. And we felt at the time it was okay because we had a couple $1 million in fund balance, so we thought these are one-time expenses. You know, even though we had worked to get them into the budget, it was the only way where we could go without eliminating a lot of staff. So I won't read that whole slide, but outsourcing the busing, that operation was crippling us financially. We had about a high non-recallable bond debt. Of course, we fixed that with the building of the stadium and actually used some of the refund to help finance that. So these are all some really good positive things we've accomplished. And again, other big projects, the Seneca roof chiller, water filtration system, we finally fixed the brown water, knock on wood. We completely renovated the middle school. And you know, we did all this without really raising taxes, just overestimating expenses and underestimating revenue, and we were able to save a little bit of money each year to tackle some of these larger things. So that's been kind of the mode that we've been in. And of course, last summer we just replaced all the HVAC units, all 80 of them in this building, and it's working well. Of course, every time we do one of those projects, we realize guaranteed energy savings, which is over $250,000 now. It's actually higher than that if we figure in what maintenance doesn't have to do now, because the equipment is newer, it's more efficient, and we have a preventive maintenance contract with the people that installed it. So academics, we can go down through this list, but quite an overhaul in athletics, or academics rather, trying to bring all of our curriculum materials up to date, get them in line with the benchmarks in the state, and we now have our schools meeting the academic targets. Technology, total revamp of technology from the bottom up. New servers at the bottom end all the way up to where we're at now, where every student and faculty member has a laptop they can use every day, and none of them are older than 3 years. They're all cycled on a lease, so that just takes care of itself. So I could go on, but a lot of you are parents here, so you know what technology your kids are using. So I'll just move forward here. But what's the net result of that? Well, you can see, like in 2015, that red dot right there, that's where we were. We were not spending much, and we were not performing much. You know, we weren't investing sufficiently in our school system to get the results we wanted. So over a 5-year period, we drifted that up to the average cost, just below average, which at that time was $9,500 per student, and we're now at average proficiency, and you can see we're moving into the area of like McLean and Mill Creek, some of the higher performing school districts. So all that investment in time and money and facilities and students and staff, it did make a very noticeable positive difference. So Vicki was talking to you about what we need to do with some unassigned fund balance. Act 1 says you can only have so much in the bank. I think it's 8%, correct me if I'm wrong. So we got together with the admin team and Eric, and we're looking at the campus going, okay, here's where we're at right now, and here's things that we see on the horizon that need to be taken care of. So we put together this plan to use a couple $1 million of unassigned fund balance to take care of preventative maintenance things, one-time expenses. So that's why that proposal is sitting on the agenda. Now, there's a common question, especially with newer board members, can we use fund balance to balance the budget? And the answer is, you can do whatever you want. You certainly can do it. But I just put a rough little piece of math here together. It's not perfect. But say this is our budget that we operate on this year, 26.5. We know we've got about a $500,000 increase, and that all comes from things we don't control. Employee wages, health insurance, pension contributions, cyber charter schools. Well, I mean, we control employee wages to some extent when we negotiate, and the unions have been very reasonable, taking CPI, cost of living index, raises around 2%, and I don't think we can do much better than that, especially now in this very labor-tight economy. So then, let's say we start with $300 million in fund balance. I just picked a number. So, okay, we're not going to raise taxes, so this is, what our revenue is, but we need $27 million, so we take $500,000 out of fund balance, and that leaves you with $2.5 million. Okay, that looks good, Ken. Like it, like what you've done with it. So let's roll that ahead another year. So now we need $27.5 million. We have an adjusted revenue through property taxes. So now we have to come up with $1 million. No problem. We got $2.5 million right there. That's good, like that. All right, let's see if we can do it another year. Well, you get down to here, you need $28 million, but this was your revenue that you froze, theoretically, in this coming school year. So now what do you need? Now you need $1.5 million to budget it, because you need, this gets spent every year, that gets spent, so it just compounds itself. So now your $3 million fund balance is at zero, and then the next year you're looking at what? Nothing in the bank and a $2 million deficit. And we know Act 1 only allows us to raise taxes by about $450,000, somewhere, give or take, every year. So this is just a little lesson in Finance 101. It's tempting to say, let's use savings, and there's times when you can do that, like the example I said earlier, where we wanted to balance the budget with no tax raise, and one of the ways to do it was to start funding one-time non-recurring building and grounds expenses through the fund balance, which is in line with the proposal to allocate some more fund balance towards those type of things. So just a note, if you did have to balance the budget that year, you can't raise $2 million. If you furloughed 20 teachers, it would get you there. So you could close the middle school. That's about the number of teachers there. I'm not serious about that. That's an example. There's a little over 20 teachers over there. But I mean, that's how we're not in a good finance climate in Pennsylvania. I think we're 48th in state funding. We're at the bottom of the barrel. Now, there's good news. Governor Wolf proposed a pretty large increase to education subsidy. So even though we're looking, I think Vicki said, well, we're around 500,000 out right now, correct? So normally we get about 100 or 125 each year in basic ed funding. So it takes a little bit of this thing out of that. But Governor Wolf, his proposal, the projected sheets that I saw from the Department of Ed, we'd get an additional 750,000. Now that is magic money. It's not real, because the PA Assembly is controlled by Republicans and Wolf's a Democrat. So they basically said, nice fantasy document, now we're going to put together the real budget. But the revenue projections in Pennsylvania have been beating the predictions. So Pennsylvania's pretty flush with cash right now, and I think they will try to beat down the education funding like they always do. But I think it's going to be hard pressed to get us back to that just minimal, here, 100,000 for you, 100,000 for, I mean, it's going to be, I think it's going to be more than that. So we might not be looking at a deficit in the neighborhood of 500,000. It could be quite a bit less. But we won't know, of course, until usually June. So that's why our projections right now don't have any increase in them. We're using last year's numbers to show worst case scenario. And you know, like some of the things we're able to do, that was off of Google Earth, and that's what it looks like now. And that was the campus in 2014. We had just replaced the roofs and we repaved the whole campus. And we actually did that. The IU got audited, and they had ripped the school districts off to the tune of $17 million. So we got $1.5 million that year. And I proposed to the board that we do, it was a one-time, like, hey, we got to fix this parking lot. It's really bad, like to the point where, you know, people are thinking about putting helmets on when they drive through. Not that bad, a little hyperbole, but that's what it looked like. And then you can see the campus, the state it's in now. We've continued to maintain and improve the facility, which is what we want to do for our students. So that's all I had. I just wanted to kind of add to last week's discussion. I'm sorry I wasn't here because I was under the weather. But that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions from the board for Mr. Berlin regarding his report?
Can we go back to that, Mr. President and Mr. Berlin, the slide with the performance up?
The academic
Yes.
one? Or,
Yes.
oh, that-
Yeah, so this is the average cost per student in Erie County. This is all 17 school districts. And this is the average proficiency line. So if your dot's down here, you're not spending much and you're performing poorly. Then, but like districts over here, this might even be worse. You got high cost and low performance, right? Up here you have high cost, high performance. And then back here you have low cost, high performance.
So what's Fairview's deal? How are they making it happen?
They have an incredibly robust tax base. So, for example, about 50% of our revenue comes from local property and about 50% from the state, 1% federal. In Fairview, it's more like, I don't know what I haven't looked at the real numbers lately, but it's more like 80% property tax, right? So they have the money to invest, and it's a relatively small school. So they invest, buy a lot of nice stuff, and they have high-performing kids from high-performing demographics.
So it's
Does enrollment play a part in it? The enrollment, you know, as a per student cost, their enrollment's roughly the same or more or less?
Their enrollment has been going up. It's high, it's more than ours right now.
Yeah.
I want to say it's probably closer to 1,800.
So if they have a lot more students, but their costs are about the same, then per capita,
Right.
or per student.
Right.
What's their
Would go down.
student to teacher ratio, like kids per classroom?
It's pretty similar to ours. I mean, you have to remember there's a direct correlation between wealth and demographics and I mean, study after study has shown that. You know, so part of that is a reflection of that area and the people that live there. You know, I'm trying to say that in a politically correct way.
Yeah,
They're-
I get it.
Mrs. Pound?
What's our goal? Like, where do you see us in, 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Where do you want us to be?
Well, I don't think we want to be increasing our expenditures, but if we focus on curriculum and instruction, we can start to move
Straight up.
straight up, now that we have taken care of all the equipment and technical needs, curriculum, material needs. You know, now we have to work on the craft of teaching with our teachers. And that's, the good news is that's relatively inexpensive to do. It just takes time and leadership and training sessions.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Berlin. The chair recognizes Mrs. Vicki Bendig, Business Administrator, for her report. Mrs. Bendig.
Thank you, Mr. President. For tonight, Treasurer's Report for the General Fund, cash in the bank as of February 28th, 2022, $11,428,162.12. I also have the year-to-date budget versus actual report. This is as of February 28th, where we have completed 67% of our fiscal year, so there are 4 months left in our fiscal year. We have collected to date a total of 72.49% of budgeted revenues. Some of the revenue that is coming in for the ESSER's grant still has not been, since the ARP ESSER hadn't been approved yet. I haven't done a budgetary amendment to add those monies to the budget, so that could change in the future, but as of right now, 72.49%. Expenditures, not a lot of no categories were overspent. Some individual line items here and there, but covered by underspent line items within the categories. Again, 67% of the fiscal year completed, and expenditures are at 53.16% total compared to budgeted. So we're in a good place there. Treasurer's report for capital projects, $1,346,212.92. That is the bond proceeds for the Erie County Tech School renovation, less the tech school payment that was due in February of about $547,000. So that is what is remaining at the end of February. Cafeteria project, treasurer's report, $469,749.19. And I have the cafeteria profit and loss for the month of February. We brought in $92,000 in revenue, which was mostly federal and state subsidy for our free lunches. And then the expenses for the month totaled $60,941.15. The majority was salaries and food. And net profit for the month, $31,362.06, which brings a net profit for the year to $116,606.18. I did attend the PASBO, Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials Conference in Hershey 2 weeks ago, and I attended a couple of seminars about the food service, and if you have a surplus of money, you have to have a corrective action plan when you file your annual financial report telling them what you're going to do with the money. They said that this year, because most school districts in the state of Pennsylvania are in this situation where you're sitting on this large chunk of change because they increased the amount of subsidy that federal money is giving us, and all the kids are eating for free, so participation is up. They're going to be very flexible with your corrective action plan. You can say you're going to use it for salary increases and for equipment. So we're trying to figure out exactly how we're going to word that when the time comes. So we did purchase a couple of new pieces of equipment, and we've been talking with the kitchens to find out things that they need and things that we can do to put it back into our program so that our kids benefit. So just a little brief update on that.
Steak for lunch.
Bills for the month. Exhibit A1, checks written since the last board meeting up until the work session, $47,554.42. Checks written since the work session, $15,828.66. And then the general fund bills for your approval this evening, totaling $314,125.96. The cafeteria wrote a check for $29,962.63. That was the check payment to the nutrition group for their management fee and our food that we used. We have started paying that in advance to save it's a 5% rebate if we pay it by a certain date. So took advantage of that. Exhibit B3, cafeteria bills for this month, $3,626.73. And the Seneca High School Activity Fund currently has $79,220.30 in that account. And that is all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Any questions from the board for Mrs. Bendig regarding her report? Mrs. Pound?
We talked about this last week about, since we have so much, not this particular one, but since we have so much in the cafeteria fund, is there an opportunity to ask the kids what they would like to see in the cafeteria or anything like that to benefit them? I know we talked about it on other stuff, but not
Yes.
this
So,
particularly.
not really. Only because there's strict nutritional guidelines. So if they're going to talk about menu options or choices, and we like to hear that, and we often have a suggestion box out for them to be able to tell us what food items they like or don't ever bring this back because it's gross. And we can tell because kids don't eat it. Like they have a menu item and then everybody gets pizza and chicken patties that day, right? Okay, let's not have Szechuan chicken anymore, that kind of thing. So they are working on it. They are trying to get kids involved. I know that we did purchase a big blender, and we got a panini grill so that they can have some better choices. They did get those last year. So we're having a staff shortage issue, which is cutting into the ability to try new and inventive things because we just don't have the manpower to do it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Question. Are they giving you much idea of what food cost increases might start to look like?
It is a scary thing.
Yeah.
I'm working on our renewal contract with the nutrition group, and we have an advantage because we have the nutrition group because of their buying power, because they're a very large company that buys lots of food at a time and then distributes it to the districts that they need. But they're talking like a 13 to 22% increase in food costs. So the budget for next year that our renewal is based on, they give us a guaranteed bottom line. Hey, you're going to net, or you're going to we guarantee you're only going to have a loss of $25,000. It's probably not going to look real pretty. And we'll probably be using this money that we've accumulated next year to cover the increase in food costs and the lack of participation.
Right.
Because as of right now, the USDA is not extending waivers that is going to allow children to eat for free next year. Parents are going to have to fill out free and reduced lunch applications in order for their children to be qualified for free and reduced if they're not already direct certified, and all other students will go back to having a paid lunch. So that in and of itself will drive our participation down, and our food is going to cost up to 23% more, which is kind of scary.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ms. Pound.
On that reduced lunch, how they have to fill out the form, that goes in the packet that we get every year, right, at the beginning of the year or whatever it is. Is there a way to make that easier for parents and do an online form or something?
It is
Oh,
all
good.
online.
Oh, good. Because
It's
we give the paper copy.
So this past year, I did not send out paper copies. I sent out instructions on how to do it online.
Gotcha. I don't do it.
And there's a whole bunch of information on our district website. If you go to cafeteria information, links to School Cafe, which is the platform that we're using. It's also your student's lunch account. You have access to your student lunch account. You have access to the menus, but that's also where you go to apply for free and reduced lunch.
Gotcha.
So we send out a letter that says, don't forget to do this, but it is all online. I really don't want to be collecting paper copies. If people don't have the technology to do it, I'm happy to collect a paper copy, but I would really prefer that it's all done online.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mrs. Hetherington?
Is there still difficulty getting food, certain things or not?
Yes,
Okay. Is that gonna continue next year, you think?
probably.
So we get limited supply and it costs money.
Yes. So if you have to have a green vegetable and you want to get green beans, well, let's say you want to get broccoli, but it's not available, and broccoli costs $2. We don't have broccoli, but we can get you green beans, and they cost $5. So it's okay, we'll get green beans because you got to have a green vegetable or whatever it is. It's not a fun situation. And the chicken that we used to get isn't available, so they've had to switch the chicken or get something different, and kids may not like it as well, and it's really not what we want to serve, but it's either that chicken or no chicken. Right.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the reports, payments, and invoices as presented.
Morvay, so moved.
Farrell, second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We have no items on the, thank you, Mrs. Bendy. We have no items on the agenda under legal advisement. The chair recognizes Mr. Stephen Morvay for finance. Mr. Morvay.
Mr. President, there are two items on our agenda. First item on our agenda is under F1. It's a motion to approve some budgetary transfers. As noted in the bullet points, budgetary transfer from budget to actual as part of Exhibit E, as well as transfer committed fund balance to capital project in the amount of $65,555.27 for the work so noted, as well as transfer from unassigned fund balance to capital projects in the amount of $97,809.46 for the heat pump project, as well as transfer from unassigned fund balance to committed fund balance as part of Exhibit F. So moved.
Nicole, second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussions on F1? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
The next item is item F2, which is the Northwest Tri-County Intermediate Unit Budget, Northwest Tri-County Intermediate Unit Budget for 2022-23. The motion is to approve the budget as presented for the school year, more over 65 million, and to approve the Wattsburg Area School District's contribution for the 22-23 school year in the amount of $31,000 and $189,000 as noted. So moved.
Second, Kuschak.
Thank you. Any discussion on F2? Hearing none, we're going to do a roll call on this one. Madam Secretary?
Mr. Morvay,
Yes.
Mrs. Ham,
Yes.
Dr. Kuschak,
Yes.
Mrs. Birmingham. Yes. Mrs. Farrell,
Yes.
Mr. Pennington,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Mattson,
Yes.
Mr. Blazer.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Morvay.
That's it for today, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Mr. Sean Mattson for building the grounds. Mr. Mattson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one item this evening under buildings and grounds, and then a few additional items on the agenda. B1, utilization of school facilities, a motion to approve the use of Seneca High School cafeteria, dining room, and/or middle school cafeteria, dining room by BASBO Northwest Facility Managers on March 18, 2022 from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the cost of the requester. And to approve the use of the auditorium, cafeteria, dining room, classroom, band or choir room, or course rooms by the music department to host PMEA District Band February 9th through the 11th, 2023 at no cost to the requesters. So
Any discussion on, oh, I'm sorry, we need a second there.
Amanda, second.
Any discussion on B1? Mrs. Powell?
What is PMEA district?
Pennsylvania Music Educators Association, it's district band.
Okay.
So all the kids in the area audition, and then the best of the best participate in district band. They have an opportunity to move on to regional band. We've not hosted in quite a few years, so it's a new thing for us.
That'll be fun.
Hearing no other questions, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
B2, general energy performance contract services, a motion to approve the general energy performance contract services as outlined in attachment 1. Total project amount will be $485,364.44, as we will not do the exhaust fans for IT as quoted, project to be funded by ARP Messrs. So second, Kuschak.
Any discussion or questions on B2?
I have a quick question, Mr. President.
Sure, Mr.
So
Morvay.
the energy savings program and the annual savings payback, is that pretty typical? I mean, for given these types of projects that we're looking at doing? I mean, we spent $498,000, but we realize an annual savings of $3,200.
Yeah, we've done most of the low-hanging fruit,
Okay.
so a lot of
So
that.
diminishing returns?
Yeah, like we've done all the big stuff, so like finishing the windows with high efficient windows and those couple hot water tank, on-demand hot water tanks. You get a little bit of savings, but not like when we put new roofs on the building.
Fair.
Or like the 80 heat pumps we put in this building.
But the age, as I read through the age of a lot of these things are at the end of their useful life anyway. So
That's
we
correct.
may not be seeing the annual savings, it's the replacement cost really that we're kind of
Yep.
saving. We're not kicking something down the road.
That's right.
Fair enough.
And it's allowable under the ARPSR, which is
Perfect.
money that
Even more
is
better.
not,
More better?
it's not coming directly out of our pocket.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
Hearing no other questions, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's all for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Metzen. Chair recognizes Mrs. Nicole Lee for personnel. Mrs. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 6 items tonight. P1, Kelly substitute additions to approve Kevin Scully as an addition to the substitute list. So moved.
Morvay, second.
Any discussion on P1? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
P2, resignation to accept the resignation of Christopher Balu as of March 5th, 2022. So moved.
Second, Pushcheck.
Any discussion on P2? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
P3, personnel appointments to approve the following personnel appointments. Amanda Kanenzik, if I said that correctly, is a long-term sub for the elementary center, anticipated through June 10th. And on the addendum, Jennifer Morganson is a special education aide for 7 hours a day, 180 days a year, effective April 4th, 2022. So moved.
Second, Burlingame.
Thank you. Any discussion on P3? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries.
Okay, P4, conference request. Motion to approve the following conference requests as listed below. Taking note of the strikeout on the addendum, Rob Englert training was canceled. So moved.
Second, Heather.
Thank you. Any questions or any discussions on P4? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
All right, P5, leave requests. Motion to approve sabbatical leave for Madeline Simmons, effective March 7th through September 7th, 2022. So moved.
Do we have a second?
Farrell, second.
Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Okay, and last one, tuition reimbursements. To approve the tuition reimbursements as outlined in Exhibit G. So moved.
Second, Pushcheck.
Any discussion on P6, the tuition reimbursements? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lee. Chair recognizes Mrs. Amanda Farrell for policy. Mrs. Farrell.
Thank you. One item this evening, motion to approve the, sorry to help if I go to the wrong. Motion to approve the second reading of policy 246, the school wellness as outlined in Exhibit H. So moved.
Morvay, second.
Thank you. Any discussion on PL1? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Mrs. Farrell. Chair recognizes Dr. Andy Pushak for curriculum.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 2 items tonight. C1 is approval of academic services. C2 is the approval of homebound instruction with 1 addition on the addendum under C2. Without objection, I would move both of those together. So moved.
Second, Heather.
Thank you. Are there any questions on C1 or C2 under curriculum? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's carried.
That's all I have for curriculum, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pushak. The chair recognizes Mrs. Leah Hetherington for technology.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the most boring. I have nothing.
That wasn't always the case.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Hetherington. The chair recognizes Mrs. Brittany Burlingham for transportation. Mrs. Burlingham.
Right, thank you, Mr. President. I have one item under transportation tonight. T1, transportation request, to approve the transportation request and ratification of field trips since last meeting as outlined in Exhibit 1, so moved, or Exhibit I, sorry, so moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions on T1, the transportation requests?
Just want to make sure, is there
Sure, Ms. Lee.
2 attachments? Because there's an Exhibit I and then it says attachment 2 on the addenda.
I see that, but I attached it to
Added to that, okay, I just want to make sure, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's carried. Thank you, Mrs. Burlingham. The chair recognizes Mrs. Tara Pound for athletic and extracurricular.
Thank you. I have 2 items. AE1, motion to approve Danielle Morbe, Jess Williams, and Jessica Williams. In addition, on the addendum, Christopher Evans and Alicia Rose to the Wattsburg Area School District volunteer list. And then AE2, athletic appointments. Tracy Steers as track and field second assistant sprint hurdles for 2022 school year. And Jack Corey as the head coach of football 2022-23 school year. Chase Cole as the 7th grade volleyball coach for 2021-2022. So moved.
Second, Mr. Chapman.
Thank you. Are there any questions on AE1, AE2? Mrs. Hetherington?
The volleyball, is that 7th and 8th grade supposed to be?
She is.
She's both.
She's both.
That's a she.
Sounds like
It's a she, yeah.
I think the position might be called 7th grade, but they do both positions. Is that correct?
I believe that's it.
There's a slash.
Right, right.
Like the message.
Maybe it's supposed to be both.
Let me just, yeah, correct that.
Any other questions?
Do we know where these individuals are joining us from?
Mr. Berlin, do you know anything about our coaches?
I can't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just wondered where they were from, if you knew where they were coming from.
University.
All of them?
Our volleyball coach is a volleyball player for Mercy University.
Oh, okay.
Currently? Or graduated? She's a senior. Okay.
Nice.
Hearing no other questions, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's carried.
And our football coach is here, right?
Welcome.
Wow, congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pound.
Yes, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
You want to say anything?
Sure.
We'll put you on the spot.
I'm really excited about the opportunity. It's my first time as a head football coach. I've been coaching high school football for 2 years now. I was most recently at Mercier's Prep, Erie High the year before that. I had a long tenure at Edinburgh University as an assistant coach. I'm currently a teacher in Erie School District, health and phys ed at Erie Elementary. I'm just really excited for the opportunity to lead your young men. Hopefully develop some great character individuals to add to our community. Thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard, thank you.
The boys are excited, just.
Till they're doing 2-a-days.
Right.
Then not so much.
Looks like there are 2 items under miscellaneous on tonight's agenda. M1 is Kidder Media Agreement. The motion is to approve the agreement between Kidder Media and Wattsburg Area School District for the 2022-2023 newsletter production as outlined in Exhibit J. And M2, which is our Therapy Dogs United Visit Agreement. Motion is to approve the agreement between Therapy Dogs United and Wattsburg Area School District as outlined in Attachment 3.
Move to approve both, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Farrell, second.
Thank you. Are there any questions on M1 or M2? Mrs. Pound?
For the therapy dog visits, the attachment didn't really say a lot about it, so what is that? What are they doing?
They bring the dogs in to visit with students throughout the school day. So the high school reached out. We've had them come to the middle school in previous years. The high school, a student reached out to the high school. It's one of her projects she'd like to work on is bringing therapy dogs in. So the agreement just basically states that they're not going to share pictures of our students and they're going to keep confidentiality of our students as well.
So the dogs just hang out?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how it's structured for the high school. Typically what happens is the students or teachers can sign up to have the dogs brought to their classroom during specific periods. That's how I'm used to it being operated.
Okay, thank you.
And
So
I
Burlingame?
just want to make a really brief comment just because our agency uses our therapy dogs. They come every month, and it's one of the best things. And we also use them for our kids who deal with trauma at the courthouse. It is one of the best things I think they could do for kids in general. It just brings so much peace and just. So I think it's really cool that we're doing.
Well, they're trained too. They have to go through.
And they're beautiful. They're so well behaved. It's
Yeah.
super cool. So I'm excited for this. So.
Hearing no other questions, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's carried. For the Erie County Technical School Report, Mr. Morvan.
Mr. President, this report is based upon the February board meeting at the Erie County Technical School. Our next board meeting actually is this coming Thursday, so this report is on the previous month's work session as well as board meeting. A few items just to highlight for representation for our board. There was a published exemplary student list for the second quarter, and I'm proud to report there's about 24 Wattsburg area school district students that are listed either for the second quarter, either into honor roll, distinguished, perfect attendance, etc. I have a list here, so I don't know however you want to try to publish that. We can move forward from there. Yes, Tara.
I have a question. That list that you get, can
Yes.
we do something like highlighted on the screen for next time, just so the public can see the kids?
Yeah, I mean, we can put it on the web page.
Yeah.
We can roll them
Yeah.
in the screen. We have those announcement screens.
Yeah,
in the-
yeah. That's cool.
Like in the cafeteria and the gym.
Okay, you want me to email it to you?
Yep.
I can do that. Yep.
And then I'll-
Very good. So, yep. In addition to that, there was the tech school had created a memorandum of understanding between the teachers. There was just an update on their COVID protocols that went throughout without any issues. They did update their existing facilities with the American Rescue Funds. They put together basically a similar list to what we've discussed about facilities upgrades. They're planning on using some of their funds to the tune of about $500,000. It would include some HVAC updates, elevator work, as well as upgrading some of their water fountains, etc. That's over and above the technical school renovation project, so this is internal to the existing facilities. They also updated their health and safety plan, which allowed them to go mask optional as well for the tech school. They did hire the sports therapy and exercise science instructor. If you recall, that's a new program that's coming on this coming year. They did hire a person for that role. They're also, in the meantime, working through creating the curriculum for this coming year, as well as then the update on the construction work. In general, they've started. They're about 2 or 3 months in. So far, construction seems to be moving forward. There actually is a tour that is planned for the board members this coming Thursday. So we'll be able to take a tour of those facilities in progress. The last 2 months, it's been dark when we get there, so there's really not a lot to see. But things seem to be moving along, progressing as well. And as well as there was an update on capacity of students. They have a total capacity of about 912 students that they can do. In February, there was 678 students, so they're operating at about 74% capacity. So they are continually trying to do recruitment efforts, et cetera, as they move forward throughout their school year and the upcoming year. So that's my February report. I'll have a March report, unfortunately, in April at our April board meeting and be able to report from there.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Morvan. For the Northwest Intermediate Unit report, Dr. Pushek.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to the board for passing the IU budget. The roll call is a requirement of the IU. We have to report the number of yeas and nays back to them because they have an aggregate number that they need to meet to pass the IU budget according to their bylaws. So thank you for that. And the next meeting is Wednesday, so I will have my report similarly next month. That's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pushek. That brings us to board correspondence and dialogue. Is there anything from the board this evening?
I just had one comment. I think it was very cool about the Ukraine project and that we have teachers that have connections internationally with other teachers. I think that's very cool.
Agreed.
It's a great thing for our students.
Do they have like a tally of how much they were able to collect?
What they brought.
Like poundage or number of items?
Put Zach on the spot. You're here.
So we sent about 30 boxes.
Wow.
We actually directly mailed about 20 of those. The other 18 we ended up dropping about half of them off in town to a Ukrainian church, and about half of them Abby brought to representative for the, yeah.
Erskine.
Oh, Bob Erskine's one.
He was sending the whole.
Great.
How much were your shipping costs? Did you guys calculate that?
So in total, it was about $1,500. We raised all that just through donations and stuff.
Nice.
That's cool.
Very good.
Do you know if any of it has gotten there yet?
So actually, I was just looking at the tracker, and it should be there in like 4 days. Our first shipment should be. It took about 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So did you mail the stuff directly to Mr. O'Donnell's friend, or how does
Yes,
that
we mailed it directly to Mr. O'Donnell's friend.
work? Okay, and then she'll distribute it. I hope she reports back.
Yeah, that's very cool.
She actually she knows a priest that works in Ukraine who is going like back and forth from Poland and taking supplies directly to Kyiv and places like that.
Awesome.
Hearing nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I have one thing.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Bennett.
There was some discussion about wanting to move back to the auditorium. Is that something that you would like to discuss?
So just a reminder for the board members that maybe are newer to joining us, how long have we been over here? Maybe more than a year that we've been meeting in this space just to be a little closer to the public and allow even more access, and that we spread out because, COVID. So we've been moving and shaking a little bit, but it's not conducive as we can to hearing out there in the audience. Mr. Calabrese hasn't heard a word of that we said all night. So
He could move to the front row. He tells his students.
there you go. So the discussion was whether we would entertain moving our meetings back to the auditorium, because it doesn't sound like we have any other space that the acoustics might work any better than that.
Or if we wanted to stay here, I could explore some type of sound system down here.
I don't want to go back to the auditorium. I think it's way too far away from the audience and it's stuffy with us sitting up on the stage.
I don't think so at all. I'd love to go back to the auditorium. I think this is ridiculous. People can't hear. You can't hear on the video. It's hard to see people being at the same level with them. That's just my input. Why would we spend more money as a board for a once or twice a month issue? We could put that towards student expenses. I'm fine with moving back to the auditorium. It's right next to the boardroom and the central administration office. But that's just me.
Can't we find some other room?
Any other ideas or comments?
I mean, I hear Dr. Kushak for sure. However, I think I'm on board with Tara too. It is nicer when we're at the same level with the audience. I feel like being above that's just kind of my mentality and how I work, though, my mind. But I'm also open and I'm easygoing. So,
I mean, we've done it in the Seneca Auditorium before. The inconvenience there is if we have to have an executive session, we don't have the boardroom, although we could find another space if we needed to.
Do you mean in the
But
media
you
center?
still have the other thing.
Iroquois and Gerard both have little microphones at each.
I did a little research. I mean, it isn't cost prohibitive to get wireless microphones and a wireless speaker setup. If that's something you'd want me to look into.
I guess it depends on what are we trying to portray to our constituents.
Well, I think first and foremost, we want everybody to be able to hear us.
It's pretty important.
Even the video, I mean, I've reviewed our YouTube videos and you can't hear anything almost. So, I mean, it's great that we're recording it, but you really have to crank up your computer volume.
Can we ask the people that are, do you prefer like same level, or would you prefer better acoustics?
I think I prefer the auditorium.
Comfy seats in the auditorium for the audience.
Does having it here create a burden on the building maintenance cleanup? In other words, we have to clear out and then
There is a lot of setup.
so it takes longer to do.
There's
Yeah.
time out of the custodian's
That's
day
what I was
to
wondering.
put the tables
So it's an
and chairs
inconvenience
and-
for them.
It
Be
is.
honest. Yeah, right.
Not that we're not willing to do it.
Oh, if it's unneeded,
Mr. Calabrese?
he's the one who sets us up.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
He keeps the kids out of it.
I want to throw my 2 cents in there. Acoustic wise,
PowerPoints, we have 3 great projectors up in the auditorium that are better visuals for here compared to one screen. And my 2 cents would be to go back to the auditorium.
I've been to some of your movie nights though, and I know that the acoustics aren't always working.
Well, we're actually working with Mr. Martin actually to purchase new wireless mics for we have the musicals for 3rd and 4th grade. So we're actually looking at kind of the sound system as a whole because it was installed back in probably 96 or somewhere around there. So we're actually looking to, possibly spend some money there as well. But good or bad, I want to do 100%.
Do we have to take a vote?
Yeah, I don't know, that's a good question. Is this something that's
Just a yay or nay? All right, I'll make a motion.
Do we have to vote today? I mean, can't we have
You don't have to
options
vote
in
at
front of
all.
us?
Yeah.
it's not a voting
It's not a
issue,
votable thing.
right?
And it sounds like people out there are like willing and able to like.
We didn't
feel
vote
like
the movie.
Like,
Yeah.
if they're okay with it, as a social worker, it is just like a goal to eye contact level. That's just my mentality, but I'm open, if people are like, please pretend, then I say, let's
Right.
just do it then.
I think if
If
we
they're
can
comfortable.
save the hassle of setting up in my head, we go back.
I'm open.
We didn't vote to move over here, thinking
True.
back.
True.
So,
All we would have to do is
Announce the location.
we'd have to advertise.
right.
Okay.
Mr. Berlin, would you be able to provide maybe a couple of estimates on what it would take to get speakers for here, like you said, the wireless, and then we can compare our options between here and the auditorium at that point?
Yeah, I can give a few options that way.
And let's be honest, the reason we moved here was because of the Facebook flash mob, toxic people that came and yelled and screamed and
And then we got,
we're above them and all that stuff. That's why we moved down here, let's be honest. It wasn't for acoustics. It wasn't for any other reason than to try to appease the community.
What do you think they'll return?
Then we'll move back. It's ever rotating.
What I've learned is you just never know what's going to become a hot button issue. They come out of nowhere.
Was that connected to an issue? Or was it just?
Well, yeah, I kind of got rolling with the stadium project.
That long ago?
Yeah.
But then we went to COVID.
And I had been hounded for years on how horrible that stadium was. Not in a million years would I have thought there would be such resistance to improving the facility for the kids, but that's just how it happened, and why, how, I don't know, but so it's somewhat unpredictable.
I'm very appreciative of it. I was against it at first, but now that we have it, when I go to other places, like other schools that don't have it, I'm like, wow, I feel so blessed that our kids have this.
And they deserve it.
They do.
They do.
So I know it was a pretty terrible time, but thanks for sticking it out.
so we'll wait for Mr. Berlin to share some information, and we can dialogue and discuss it and make a decision. But if we made a decision, sounds like we would have to advertise where we made our new location to. So thank you for reminding us, Mrs. Bendig. Now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Farrell.
Nicole, second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.